Good morning from Yummy B TV. Wishing you all well, sending loads of love to you all as usual, and another bleak day coming from down here. And just before I travel again to do another interview or different kind of content for you all, it's worth remembering that certain men and ladies who I interview at certain stages during this journey, where I just walk in blind with no script, with no editing, are going through various different stages during their lives: mental health, certain conditions, anxiety, and the traumas that they have never ever come to terms with. It's always worth remembering that. So I have to do it as I see it and be the best way possible that I can do it, because it's all new to me as well, facing these things without a plan as well. And I suppose that's why a lot of you, the real experts and brains who watch me, they will be able to see exactly what happened yesterday as well. You know what I mean? And messages coming in, but the Inquirer Ben quite says, yeah, I mean, the way you adapted to that is very difficult with the mental states. I say it's the way, you know what I'm saying? And then there's other ones. I know Raphael and certain other men that are looking at those and they're thinking, it's a difficult one. You know what I mean? I'm facing it all. I'm standing tall. I'll walk straight through the door. I'm not editing nothing. I don't want anything to be made pretend to look like something it's not. I want you all to look at it and see it for what it really is. Whether you pick at me or poke at me, yeah, you should have done it this way and that way. I don't do it that way. Maybe one day, if you want me to, I'll do it that way. Then I'll edit that bit, we'll miss that bit and make it look like that emotion meant this bit and that bit. No. If you want me to, I'll take a poll on it. If you want me to, I'll start editing and doing it the way that other people do it. I'll leave it up to you, right? The journey goes on, right? Now, topic this morning, and it's a big one. Well done, big man. Sitting round the table in those groups with paedophiles, rapists, and psychotic, horrible scumbag serial killers who take on vulnerable targets. What does it all mean? Right, first of all, we go straight into it. We know Terry Ellis has written a book called Living Amongst the Beast. The best way to describe it, of course, he went to Grendon now. Tony Arger went to Grendon. Razor Smith went to Grendon. There are other men that went to Grendon. Now, I've also been in various categories and local jails and had to appear on groups where certain men in for certain crimes are not on protection. Not on Rule 43. There was a thing in Long Larton, that video with Bronson and all that, and way back in the day where they were sitting on a group and there was a geezer doing 17 years for rape or something like that, talking quite freely and openly. And what does it all mean? It's worth remembering. I believe Razor, Tony Argent, Terry Ellis went to Grendon because they wanted to get out early from their cases. Maybe Terry Ellis went in there with a different frame of mind, that he wanted to learn psychologically what it's like to live among the beast. It would have been a thing that I would have been interested in at one stage, for the way that I profile human behaviour and various crimes and stuff like that. Terry gave great insight into what is a magnificent book, really, in reality. But I believe that Tony Argent and Razor went there because they wanted to get out early. How they stomachs it by sitting around all that, some horrific crime. Now, the main thing about all this is if you've suffered childhood trauma at the hands of some of these people, or you know people that have, to sit around a table with them and listen to them talk about their crimes. You got to be kidding me. Don't make me laugh. I believe, you've got to be strong-minded to get through that. Tony Argent was. You know what I mean? Do I believe that I could have done it? No. I've listened to, like I said, on other occasions away from Grendon, as a young boy, and listened to certain things, and certain men are not doing nothing to those men that have committed horrific crimes and just said, let them talk and let them think. But one, I look at the facts. The human psyche, behaviour, and the thought patterns, and we all get dark, morbid thoughts and fantasies, and then think, what am I thinking that for? More about how we control what goes on up here and in here, right? You've got those great campaigners out there that I say to you that, but the sex offenders is genetic and it's medical and they're not well. But Uncle Yammy's always believed that if you didn't like what they did to you, how could you possibly want to put somebody else through what you went through, because after all, it left many of us traumatized for life, and over many thousands, hundreds of near enough 1,000 sufferers that suffered at the hands of people like that message me and say, yeah, I mean, it happened to me and this happened to me, other people, can't call people's names, and they never got over it. They came out when they saw some of us come out, like Paul Tiernan breaks it down properly. What I was trying to say the other day, when Paul Tiernan was saying, yeah, I mean, I thought that they was thinking that they knew, and it always stayed with me. I don't know if they did or they didn't. And then he asked someone, he said, no, I didn't even know. You know what I mean? What I was meant to interject and say was, Paul, I always thought the same thing. Because it was common knowledge what happened to me as a little boy in that children's home. They all gossiped about it because I stabbed the geezer, went away young, and he got touched up and all that kind of stuff. I brought it out on when I first came out as a sign of taking my power back and letting the people know that, you know, so I know that loads of people have watched that and thought, oh, Yami went through that. The big thing with Paul Tiernan bringing up that, and I'll bring Tony Argent, he's the master at breaking down trauma, right? Paul Tiernan's good. And there'll be a few of us who've asked for it, the intelligent ones, Yami, bring them on. It's interesting that a lot of my cronies and big-time friends are very, very intelligent with this kind of stuff. Now, when I came out, we did a video where I went to see my childhood sweetheart from school from 40 years ago. I never ever saw her again. She's really unwell at the moment. We know that Uncle Yami has love for kids, and kids have love for me without me even knowing them. We talked about this, but when I went round her house, after 40 years, I said, look, there's loads of kids, and you know what I mean? Because they're strangers. They're strangers, people, other people's children. It's not like mums where I've been around the kids before and they know me and it's happy Yami and let's all have a laugh and they all jump on me and beat me up and all that kind of thing. It's mayhem when I go around certain houses with kids and all that, because you know Uncle Yami's like a little kid and I won't never say no to him. So I'm not the right person to say, I'll lead him security-wise across the road and make sure they're protected and like, let me have this, let me have that. Yeah, all right, have it. Mum, Yami, don't let him have that. All right, I get it. But I went round and I said, Lynn, you know, normally what happens when I come round, the kids after a little while start wanting to get closer and closer to me, but I'm funny around stranger kids because of the trauma. And I'll explain why, what Paul Tiernan actually meant the other day. After an hour of sitting there with Linda, they started to get close, four of them started to get closer, and she goes, oh no, you was right. They're coming, Yami, but tense, like that. Put a hand on me, Yami, Sammy, I know what happened when you were little. So you did know that. So I was right. The reinforcement that everybody knew what happened to me. So what are we saying that those great psychologists, therapists, so-called, oh, if it happened to you, then there's a lot of cases where you become the abuser yourself, thinking what other people are thinking, and people throwing out things out there to make you believe that that's what they might be thinking as well, when maybe they're not, but maybe they are. So you're left thinking, oh, they don't think I'm like that, do they? Paul Tiernan got it spot on. More of that to come. But sitting around it in those groups, when I sat down and listened to rapists and you know, the odd occasion, Woodhill and way back in the day, the psyche and the human mind, things that you don't think about. It's not in you to think about because you've never done what they've done. You've got a rough idea of where their fantasy and their violent, aggressive desires and the way that they just want to harm people and take advantage of the vulnerable. You have a rough idea of how it works. But when they're sitting in groups and they're going through the description about how they felt and why they did it, and it was because of this and because of that, you're actually programming your mind to know then new stuff that you didn't really need to know. Because they're talking about, oh, I didn't know about that. Is that how they... So that could leave you traumatized. It can, because it wasn't in there to start with, and then it gives you more knowledge as to how they think, and you think to yourself, yes, you've got to be strong-minded to live through it all and go through it and process it, what's really going on. No, it would have never worked for me. It couldn't. I would never be able to sit around in groups. I had to walk off those 2-3 groups over that lifetime and say, hey, I know that we had to sign a thing to say, you're not going to do no physical and belittle anyone when they talk and that kind of stuff during that stage. So, you know, I was doing it more to learn more about myself, because remember, I'm self-taught and I worked out my traumas through my own self-study, not through no psychologist. The top psychiatrist in the category A's met me on the first day. How about this one, right? They dropped some real funny ones in, you know. I walked into the room. She's a good lady, right? Mary something, right? She's in the Cat A's. My first session, she brought me in. She went like this. Walked through the door. And as I walked in, she went, oh, hold on a minute. She bent over to go into her handbag like she was searching for keys. She was leaning over with all her little tits hanging out, right? I thought, listen to this. No, Mary. Don't try that one on me. Because I'm walking at the psychological way of she's thinking or doing her stuff because she's high rank degree and lived certain things herself. She's a very, very insightful lady. But I know she's that sexual look of thinking that my eyes will be taken in by the tits to sit down there to all of a sudden now talking to her, looking, and then she could see them program, think that I'm programming to a sexual element of what she's thinking, you know, how they read into certain things. But it was a move that day. It was a move that day. I started laughing. You got to get up early to get me. And you know what's the first thing she said to me? And it broke. I went mad. She goes, Samson, first question. With what happened to you with your trauma, have you ever fantasized about it? Huh? I looked at her in disbelief. I went, you talking to me? So that's the kind of questioning of the lines of people who've been through trauma. One of the first aspects of how they delve into the belief of what they've been told by way of surveys and listening to sexual offenders and people's stories. Is that a feature? No, it wasn't a feature in mine. But when she asked me, I was taken aback because I knew another programmed question about it all. It's deep, deep stuff, you know. For all abuses, forget sexual, mental, physical. We'll go into all of it one day, and I'll bring the proper experts on the show. When they break it down, you look like that with Paul Tierney the other day, but hey, them boys have got another level to go on yet. All right, have a good day. I'm on my way to travel to another trial, get another few bombs let off.